boy builds a robot from scrap. At the science fair, he surprises everyone when his invention wins first prize. The rain poured from the heavy gray clouds, creating a steady rhythm on the roof of the garage. Inside, Orion sat on a stool, surrounded by rusty metal scraps and an array of tools that seemed to tell a story of their own. Each piece of metal, each forgotten tool, spoke of his isolation. He picked up a wrench, feeling its cold weight in his hand, and glanced at the half-finished robot before him. The robot, named Argos, was more than just wires and metal. It was a reflection of Orion's dreams, hopes, and struggles. Just a few more adjustments, he muttered to himself, tightening a bolt with determination. He could almost see Argos come to life in his mind, moving and interacting with the world around him. The upcoming science fair loomed in his thoughts, a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling within him. Could this be the moment he proved himself? Could he finally show everyone that he was more than just the weird kid in school? As the rain continued to drum against the garage, Orion felt the weight of solitude pressing down on him. It was as if the storm outside mirrored the turmoil within. He took a deep breath, his heart racing with the promise he made to himself. I will show them. I can be more than what they think. Just then, the creaking of the garage door interrupted his thoughts. His mother stepped inside, her brows furrowed with concern. Orion, you've been in here for hours. Don't you think it's time to take a break? She asked, glancing around at the cluttered space. I'm fine, Mom. I'm almost done with Argos, he replied, trying to sound cheerful, but the truth was, her question only deepened his internal struggle. He wanted to fit in, to have friends, but here he was, lost in his own world of gears and circuits. You know, it wouldn't hurt to spend some time with others your age, she gently suggested, her voice softening. You could invite someone over, maybe even take a break and grab some ice cream. Orion looked down at the floor, his fingers tracing the edge of the workbench. Yeah, but they don't understand me. They think I'm just a weirdo. His mother sighed, her eyes filled with compassion. Being yourself is what makes you special, Orion. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He wanted to believe her, but the words felt heavy. The thought of facing the other kids at school sent a chill down his spine. What if they laughed at Argos? What if he failed? Just remember, his mother continued, you are so much more than what they see. You have a gift, and you should share it with the world. A flicker of hope ignited within him at her words. Maybe she was right. Maybe he could show them the real Orion. He raised his head, looking into her eyes. I will, Mom. I promise. I will make Argos the best robot ever. With that promise hanging in the air, she smiled, a mixture of pride and hope in her expression. As she turned to leave, the sound of the rain faded slightly, replaced by a newfound determination in Orion's heart. He gazed at Argos, his mind racing with ideas. Every bolt, every circuit was a step closer to his goal. The rain continued to fall outside, but inside the cluttered garage, a spark of inspiration began to light the way. Would this be the moment that changed everything? The moment he could finally step out of the shadows of isolation? Orion picked up his tools once more, a sense of purpose surging through him. He was ready to fight against the weight of his solitude. With every twist and turn of the wrench, he felt a little closer to breaking free from the chains of his fears. At school, the atmosphere felt heavy for Orion. The hallways buzzed with laughter and chatter, but he found himself standing apart, clutching his books tightly. Blake, the popular kid, led a group of friends who thrived on making others feel small. Today, they had set their sights on Orion. Hey, look, it's the robot boy, Blake called out, his voice dripping with mockery. His friends snickered, and Orion's cheeks burned. He tried to walk past them, but Blake stepped into his path. What's that? Another pile of junk you made? Orion felt the familiar knot in his stomach. He wanted to say something clever, something that would make them stop, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he lowered his gaze and hurried away, the laughter echoing behind him like the sound of rain on a metal roof. As he walked to his next class, Orion's mind drifted back to happier times. He remembered afternoons spent in his garage, tinkering with bits of metal and wires. A flashback swept over him. He was a young boy, his hands covered in grease as he built his first robot. He had felt proud, his heart racing with excitement as the little machine whirred to life. "Look, Mom, I made it move," he had shouted, his mother smiling brightly, her eyes filled with pride. "You're a genius, Orion, just like your father," she had said, her words wrapping around him like a warm blanket. But now, those memories felt like distant stars, shining brightly, but out of reach. Orion shook his head, trying to push away the sadness. He had a project to finish, and he needed to focus. The science fair was just a few days away, and he had to make Argos the best it could be. In class, whispers about the science fair filled the air. Orion overheard his classmates excitedly discussing their projects. "I can't wait to show my volcano," one girl exclaimed. "Mine's going to fly," another chimed in. Orion felt a mix of excitement and dread. What if Argos was not good enough? What if no one cared? He took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside him. Later, during lunch, Orion sat alone at a table, his mind racing with thoughts. He picked at his food, barely tasting it, while the sounds of laughter surrounded him. Suddenly, he heard Blake's voice again, louder this time. "Look at Orion, the king of weirdos. Bet he'll just make another robot that doesn't even work." Laughter erupted, and Orion's heart sank. He felt invisible, a shadow among his classmates. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a voice beside him. "Hey, Orion!" It was Jasmine, a girl from his science class. "I saw your robot in the lab. It's really cool. Are you excited about the fair?" Orion blinked, surprised. Yeah, I guess so." "Don't listen to Blake, he's just jealous," she said, her eyes sparkling with kindness. "I think what you do is amazing. Robots are the future." Her words lit a small spark in Orion's heart. "Thanks, Jasmine. That means a lot," he replied, a shy smile creeping onto his face. As the days passed, Orion poured every ounce of his passion into Argos. He worked late into the night, his hands moving deftly as he soldered wires and adjusted gears. Each time he recalled Blake's laughter, it fueled his determination. "This is my chance," he whispered to himself. "I'll show them who I really am." With each improvement he made to Argos, Orion felt a flicker of hope. He envisioned the moment at the science fair when he would stand proudly beside his creation, the doubts and fears fading away. The teasing would not define him. He would break through the walls of isolation, and Argos would help him do just that. In his heart, he knew it would be a battle. But this time, he was ready to fight. As the days passed, the science fair drew closer, and Orion found himself lost in a world of gears and circuits. In the dim light of his garage, he worked tirelessly on Argos, his beloved robot. The sound of rain tapping against the roof was a constant reminder of the outside world, but inside, he was focused. Each twist of a screw and each connection of wires brought him closer to his goal. However, the mechanical challenges he faced were tough. Some nights, he would sit back, his head in his hands, feeling the weight of his dreams. "Why can't I just get this right?" he muttered to himself, staring at the tangled mess of wires. "What if I fail?" His heart raced with anxiety as he imagined the crowd at the fair, a sea of faces waiting to judge him. Would they see him as the inventor he wanted to be, or would they just see the weird kid again? The day before the fair, doubt crept in like a shadow. Orion sat in his garage, staring at Argos, which still needed some adjustments. He thought about the laughter from Blake and his friends. They always seemed to find joy in making him feel small. With a heavy sigh, he thought, maybe it would be easier to just give up. I could avoid the embarrassment. Just then, his mother walked into the garage. She noticed the frown on his face and the way he was slumped over. "Orion," she said gently, "what's wrong?" "I don't know, Mom. What if they laugh at me? "What if Argos doesn't work?" he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. His mother knelt beside him, looking him in the eyes. "Listen to me, Orion. Your worth isn't decided by what others think. You have a unique talent that many people don't have. Embrace it. Remember why you started this project. Argos is a part of you." Orion took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope. "You really think so?" he asked, looking up at her. "I know so," she smiled. "You've put so much work into this. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you. Just be yourself." With her words echoing in his mind, Orion felt a renewed sense of purpose. He straightened up, his determination returning. "Okay, I will give it my all," he said, a spark igniting in his eyes. That night, he worked late into the hours, the garage lit by the soft glow of his desk lamp. With each adjustment he made to Argos, he felt more confident. He envisioned the robot moving smoothly, impressing the crowd, and maybe, just maybe, gaining their respect. When the sun rose on the day of the science fair, Orion felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He carefully packed Argos into a box, checking over his work one last time. "You can do this," he told himself, clutching the box tightly as he walked to school. The rain had stopped, leaving the world fresh and new. As he entered the gym, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Students were setting up their projects, showcasing everything from volcanoes to solar-powered cars. Orion's heart raced as he saw Blake laughing with his friends near the front row. "Look who it is, the robot kid," Blake shouted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Orion's stomach twisted, but he stood tall, reminding himself of his mother's words. As he set up Argos on the table, Orion took a deep breath and focused. The gym was filled with noise, but all he could think about was the moment he would present his creation. He noticed other students glancing at him, many of them whispering and pointing. "Just a few more minutes," he whispered to Argos, trying to calm his nerves. "We're almost there." With the fair in full swing, Orion felt the weight of the moment pressing on him. Could he really show them what he was capable of? He glanced around, searching for a familiar face in the crowd, hoping to find encouragement. Today was not just about Argos, it was about him stepping into the light and showing everyone who he truly was. Finally, the time came for him to present. As he stood in front of the audience, his heart raced. He took a deep breath, ready to share his journey with Argos, ready to prove that he was more than just the weird kid. The science fair buzzed with energy as students filled the gymnasium, each showcasing their projects with pride. Colorful posters and tables lined the walls, and the air was thick with excitement. Orion stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart racing. Despite the lively atmosphere, he felt a knot of apprehension in his stomach. "What if they don't like Argos?" he whispered to himself, glancing nervously at the other projects around him. He watched as a girl demonstrated her volcano, which erupted with bright red liquid, and a group of boys cheered her on. Orion's gaze shifted to the front row, where Blake sat with his friends. Blake smirked, his arms crossed, radiating confidence. Orion's heart sank. "He's going to laugh at me," Orion thought. He could almost hear Blake's mocking voice in his head, reminding him of all the times he had felt alone. "Orion," a voice called. It was his mother, standing by the entrance with a warm smile. "Are you ready?" Orion took a deep breath. "I guess so," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just remember, you've worked hard on Argos. No matter what happens, I am proud of you," she said, giving him a reassuring nod. With the encouragement of his mother, Orion stepped closer to the stage. His heart raced as he approached the judges and the audience. "Okay, Argos, it's showtime," he murmured under his breath, adjusting the controls on his robot. When it was finally his turn, Orion stood in front of the microphone, his palms sweating. "Hello everyone, my name is Orion and this is Argos," he said, trying to steady his voice. The audience looked on with curiosity, but he noticed some skeptical faces, especially Blake, who rolled his eyes. Orion took a deep breath and activated Argos, the robot whirred to life, moving smoothly across the stage. Argos is designed to assist with everyday tasks, he explained. It can pick things up and even follow commands. As Argos demonstrated its abilities, the initial skepticism began to fade. The crowd watched in surprise as the robot picked up small objects and followed Orion's instructions perfectly. The audience shifted, leaning forward in their seats, their expressions changing from doubt to interest. "Wow, that's actually cool," a girl in the back shouted, breaking the silence. Other students began to clap, and Orion felt a surge of warmth fill him. He smiled, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe this was his moment after all. But just as he started to feel a sense of belonging, disaster struck. Argos suddenly stopped moving and let out a series of beeping sounds before shutting down completely. The gym fell silent, the applause fading into an uncomfortable stillness. Orion's heart dropped. "No, no, no," he whispered, panic rising in his chest. He rushed to the robot, but it remained unresponsive. The silence felt heavy, and he could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on him, especially Blake's mocking gaze. Orion stood frozen, a wave of inadequacy crashing over him. "I'm just the weird kid again," he thought, shame washing over him. He could hear whispers in the crowd, the laughter he feared creeping back into the atmosphere. "Come on, Orion," he whispered to himself, trying to gather his thoughts. "You can't let this be the end." As he looked out at the crowd, Orion decided he had to speak. I worked really hard on this project," he began, his voice shaky but determined. "And even though Argos didn't work perfectly, it means a lot to me. I've always loved building things, even if it hasn't been easy. This robot is a part of me." The audience listened in silence, some leaning in closer to hear him. "I wanted to show that it's okay to be different. Each of us has our own strengths, and I hope you can see that in Argos, even if it didn't go as planned." Orion's heart raced as he spoke, but he could feel something changing. The whispers died down, replaced by an unexpected sense of connection. He felt a spark of courage rising within him, filling him with hope despite the situation. "Thank you for letting me share my work," he concluded, his voice steady now, and the crowd responded with a soft applause. Though Argos had failed, Orion realized he had shared a piece of himself, and that mattered more than any perfect demonstration. As the crowd fell silent, Orion stood frozen on the makeshift stage, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on his chest. Argos, his beloved robot, lay still at his feet, the unexpected shutdown feeling like a personal failure. He fought back tears, the urge to flee overwhelming, yet a spark of courage ignited within him. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, gripping the edges of the podium. Hello everyone," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "I know Argos didn't work as planned, but I want to share something with you all." His heart raced as he scanned the audience, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Even Blake, the bully, sat with a smirk, ready to pounce on any sign of weakness. Orion continued. "Building Argos was not just about creating a robot, it was about overcoming my own fears." He paused, drawing strength from the memories of long nights spent in his garage, filled with the sound of tools clanging and the smell of metal. "Ever since I was a kid, I loved to tinker and create things, but as I grew older, I felt like I had to hide who I am. I thought being different was a bad thing." He took a breath, feeling the warmth of the audience's attention. "I've been called the weird kid many times. It made me feel alone. But when I worked on Argos, I felt alive. I felt like I was doing something important." His voice grew stronger, and he could see a few nodding heads in the crowd. "I realize now that it's okay to be different. It's okay to follow your passion, even if others don't understand." A soft murmur spread through the crowd, and Orion noticed a shift in their expressions. Encouraged, he pressed on. "I wanted to show you all that creativity and invention can come from anywhere, even from someone like me. Argos represents my journey, my struggles, and my dreams." The words flowed more easily now. I know that not everyone will appreciate what I do, he said, glancing at Blake, who seemed to be listening more intently now. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I stay true to myself, and I hope that each of you can find the courage to do the same. As he finished his speech, a few moments of silence passed, and then, slowly, a clap began to ripple through the audience. It started softly, but soon grew louder as more and more people joined in. Orion's heart soared as he felt the support wash over him. They were cheering for him, not just for Argos. Blake's expression shifted, the smirk fading as he looked around at the enthusiastic crowd. Orion caught his eye, and for a brief moment, there was a flicker of something, maybe understanding, maybe regret. But it was gone as quickly as it came. "Thank you," Orion said, overwhelmed. "Thank you for listening." He took a step back, feeling the cheers wrap around him like a warm blanket. In that moment, he was no longer the weird kid. He was Orion, the inventor, the brave boy who dared to share his story. As the applause continued, Orion felt a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. The crowd was not just accepting him, they were embracing him. He spotted his mother in the back of the room, her eyes glistening with tears of pride. She smiled and gave him a thumbs up, and that gesture filled him with even more determination. In the midst of the noise, Orion realized that failure was not the end. It was merely a part of his journey. The warmth of the cheers, the recognition of his efforts, and the shift in the crowd's perception all combined to create a moment that he would never forget. For the first time, he felt that he belonged, not just to the crowd, but to himself. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but he knew he would face it with courage and authenticity, and perhaps, just perhaps, the same could be true for others like him. The days following the science fair were a whirlwind of change for Orion. As he walked through the halls of his school, he noticed something different in the way his classmates looked at him. Gone were the whispers and snickers that had once filled the air whenever he passed by. Instead, he found himself receiving nods of acknowledgement and even smiles from some of the students. One day, as Orion sat at his lunch table, a group of students approached him. Blake, the same boy who had once bullied him, stood at the front. Orion's heart raced. He was unsure if this was yet another attempt to mock him, but as Blake spoke, his tone was different. "Hey, Orion," Blake began, hesitating slightly. "I just wanted to say, your robot was really cool. I didn't expect that at all." Orion blinked, taken aback. "Thanks," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "I worked really hard on Argos." Another student chimed in. "Yeah, man. I heard you put a lot of time into it. It was inspiring." Orion felt a warmth spread through him. "I just wanted to show that anyone can create something amazing if they try." As the group chatted, Orion realized that the fear he once felt was fading. He smiled back at them, feeling a sense of belonging for the first time. At home, Orion shared the news with his mother. She looked at him with pride shining in her eyes. "I knew you could do it, Orion. You showed everyone what you are capable of." "Mom, it really feels like things are changing," he said, excitement bubbling in his voice. "Even Blake is being nice now." His mother nodded. "Sometimes, people just need to see the real you. You are not just the weird kid anymore. You are a creator, an inventor." With the support of his peers and the encouragement from his mother, Orion felt inspired to do more. He remembered how he had always loved sharing his interests with others. That evening, he took a deep breath and sat down to write a proposal for a robotics club at school. The next day, Orion stood in front of his science teacher, Mr. Thompson, clutching the paper tightly. "Mr. Thompson," he started, his voice a bit shaky, "I want to start a robotics club. I think it would be great for kids who love building and inventing." Mr. Thompson smiled, looking intrigued. "That sounds like a wonderful idea, Orion. What do you envision for the club?" "I want it to be a place where everyone can come together, share ideas, and work on projects. No one should feel alone like I did," Orion explained, his passion shining through. "I believe you have the potential to make this club a success," Mr. Thompson said. "Let's set up a meeting for the students interested." As the days passed, Orion prepared for the first club meeting with excitement and a hint of nervousness. He created posters to hang around school, announcing the gathering. "Join the robotics club, create, innovate, connect," he wrote, his heart racing with hope. When the day finally arrived, Orion stood in the school's science lab, surrounded by various tools and materials. He looked at the door, waiting for someone to walk in. To his delight, students began to trickle in, curious about the club. "Hey, is this where the robotics club meets?" a girl asked, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "Yeah, welcome," Orion replied, smiling. "I'm so glad you're here. We're going to have a lot of fun creating things together." As the room filled with laughter and chatter, Orion felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. For the first time, he was not just the weird kid. He was a leader, inspiring others to embrace their talents and individuality. That afternoon, as he left school with Argos by his side, Orion looked out at the horizon. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the world. He felt a deep sense of connection and acceptance. He understood now that true victory was not about fitting in, but about being true to oneself. With a smile, he whispered to Argos, "We did it, buddy. We really did." Share this story if you believe that friendship and creativity can transform lives for the better. Leave a comment about a time when you took a leap of faith and it paid off, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.